자, 이어서 다음 발표도 진행을 해보도록 하겠습니다. 다음으로는 샌디팽 스크롤 대표님께서 스테이블 코인 시대의 개막이라는 주제로 발표를 진행해 주신다고 하는데요. 저희 샌디팽 대표님 큰 박수와 함께 무대 위로 모셔보도록 하겠습니다. 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Let me know if I should pause for translation. It's very nice to be here. Lovely to meet everyone. It's a pleasure to be back in Korea again as a part of the Blockchain Week exercise. I think as a means of self-introduction, my name is Sandy, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of a blockchain project called Scroll. We've built a end-to-end holistic ZK EVM product. It's the first of its kind, and it's a layer 2 on Ethereum, EVM compatible, native ZK application. The catalyst for starting Scroll was 4 or 5 years ago. Me and my friends, we started looking into a zero-knowledge proof as a means to scale Ethereum and also to have a lot of practical application in the real world. And fast forward to 5 years, we've had a mainnet live and running for 2 years now, with zero downtime and no reorg, and it's in a kind of institutional ready status, and we've had billions and billions of volume and transactions on chain, and a lot of very fast growing DeFi and financial products. It's been a bit of a whirlwind and a really exciting journey. And I think every year for us, the focus of the industry and where we focus as a project has shifted quite a lot. So we've been also coming to Korea repeatedly every single year for the past 4 or 5 years since founding the project. Initially, our focus was very much on research and engineering talent hiring, and we found a pool of fantastic talent in Korea, and that's why we keep coming back to universities and keep coming back to communities to find builders here. In the second stage of our growth, our chain has essentially hit this stage of product readiness, and we come to Korea for user feedback, for exchange listing, and we also come here for community engagement, where more and more of the Korean community gets to know about Scroll and all of the suite of products that we build. Fast forward to today, we're seeing more and more institutional and Web2 inbound interest than ever. And the level of technical understanding as well as commercial understanding and product design that we're seeing in the market has reached this stage where I would think of as like crossing the chasms, crossing over to the mainstream. And this is a good time to talk about RWA projects and also STOs, including stablecoin, because these are examples of financial products of offline or rather TradFi type of assets and joining a Web3 environment. So I think as a premise, I'm going to pause for questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt anytime. So I think the Web2 and Web3 space have been growing in tandem for the last couple of years. The anarchist culture that started off crypto in a peer-to-peer transaction faction has grown to a stage where the type of products and the number of users are starting to compete or to start to become comparable to Web2 giants. And previously, in a Web2 setup, the layers of the financial stack and the different layers of banking stacks are typically very mature in markets such as Korea, America, and also Japan and China, so on and so forth. The financial stack includes payment processors like Visa, MasterCard. It includes like the mobile end type of products like Naver, Line, so on and so forth, and there's the banking system. So in each country, there's a slightly different stack of the banking and finance and lending, as well as payment stack that is previously inaccessible. And so that universe, as well as the Web3 universe, are joining force and combining and running towards each other. And I think each cycle, the biggest innovation and the biggest opportunities are at the intersection between these two universes. So without further ado, I want to talk about the kind of the turning point is one way to talk about it, but I think in these few years, we're at the precipice of the combination of Web 2 and Web 3. And we're looking at the speed of regulation and the magnitude of regulation that are coming out from the US and Hong Kong are accelerating and becoming more and more all-encompassing. And, and also it's constantly expanding its remit of regulation. And that provides clarity for bigger and bigger players to come into the space. And I fully expect through the conversations this week that there will be a lot of big regulations coming out in Korea in favor of crypto adoption. And I'm sure the Naver acquiring Upbit announcement that came out this morning is just the beginning of more and more signs of larger TradFi Web 2 ecosystems embracing Web 3 in a more holistic manner. So the regulated crypto space has been through multiple cycles. So cycles of collapse, cycles of upturn. We went from FTX triggering a lot of regulation, and in its early days, Tether triggered a lot of kind of regulation and lawmaking. I think the travel rule, as well as a lot of KYC AML rules, are inspired by a lot of the practical use cases that happened on the Tether product. But the survival of certain forms of crypto products, such as exchanges that still exist today, and stablecoin type of products, and the longevity over the last decade shows that there are certain, like the form factor of crypto products are becoming more and more mature. And same goes for the blockchain, and same goes for RWA. So the projection of RWA growth is, as the chart goes, going absolutely parabolic. And this is by a very relatively narrow definition of RWA. So a broader definition of RWA could actually include all stablecoins, because USDT and USDC fundamentally has US Treasury bonds on the back end. And that is an offline financial product which we are buying a derivative of on-chain. And we can see Ondo and Athena to some extent. There are various of these other kind of financial products with financial engineering design on the back end, but you are, as a user, you're interfacing it with a very smooth and very user-friendly stablecoin interface. And to me, that is an RWA product, and we will see more and more of it. So up till now, the biggest kind of RWA products in terms of asset type that it represents are stereotypically relatively large and fungible asset types. So things like the US dollar, like $1 and another dollar is perfectly fungible. One share of something and another share of the same company is perfectly fungible. And we're starting to see a growth of other types of asset types in the form of representations of gold on chain, and that is also growing steadily. And as the popularity of this type of product, as well as the gold price keeps climbing in this increasing decade of geopolitical uncertainty that we're about to head into, that is also an asset class that will likely gain a lot of traction. We've seen a lot of experimentations of real estate assets being put on chain, and we've also seen a lot of examples of housing, individual housing, IP, like intellectual property being put on chain, and as well as community user attention, GPU, compute, electricity, and other kind of commercial mass products. So the list of RWA is endless, but the amount of real user transaction and participation has been relatively low. But I think we're at a point in time when that's about to change. I want to highlight one example of an RWA project that was really interesting that came out in the last year. So I don't know if everyone's aware, but how many people are familiar about the kind of the international environment that happened in Turkey last year? So the Prime Minister of Turkey kind of had a spat with EU, and so the banking transmissions, the SWIFT system had been cut off. So we've heard about this setup that happened in Russia. So Russia was cut off from SWIFT during the Russian-Ukraine conflict that made transfers in and out of Russia really difficult, and a similar type of thing in a more regional scale happened in Turkey. And but Turkey, as it's embedded in the Eurasian continent and has a lot of trade relationships with the EU and also nearby Asian countries, this creates an opportunity where the bridge loan in and out of Turkey has almost like incredibly low risk, and also it just means a wrapper of this incredibly high return loan on chain was met with a lot of popularity. So we were inspired by this product, and we thought about what are the investment opportunities that has very, very safe but high returns that are off-chain, but not necessarily available to everyone on-chain. And one trade that a lot of high net worth individuals, particularly people who are familiar in the crypto space, are aware of is this trade called the basis trade. So previously, maybe like last cycle, this trade was called the kimchi premium, but now that premium is less like prevalent, but it basically means buying and selling of the same asset type across different exchanges. So you can do this across the major exchanges for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, as well as any other asset type. So that is a relatively, in the TradFi sense, relatively low risk opportunity that previously wasn't open to the retail. And then we're seeing founders packaging this type of trade in a very accessible, stablecoin enabled kind of format. So when we think about RWA and stablecoin and tokenization, a lot of these things are tied in hand. So they're not mutually exclusive. And we're seeing a lot of RWA products being packaged in a stablecoin format because people are used to this type of interaction on chain. And it basically means LP yield or various form factors of returns are delivered in a stablecoin format. Another interesting case that is coming out right now is that as a lot of the boomers in America are in the process of transferring their assets to the new generation, they typically incur a very hefty inheritance tax. So when someone receives a property from their parents, there's typically a very hefty tax in America, and this is similarly goes for Europe. I'm sure there's some similar setup in Korea. This is fairly stereotypical, and there is an RWA product that enables someone to take out a loan and use that loan to purchase Bitcoin, and that essentially delays the inheritance tax almost indefinitely, and then there's no kind of capital gains tax on Bitcoin or Ethereum token purchase. So these type of things are examples of very niche sectors, and but it solves a very, very poignant pain point. The pain point are sometimes up to 50% of all of the asset value, and so this type of innovation is very much needed for that particular niche type of users. So why Korea? Why now? So I think. So before we get on to that, right? Another case that I think is really interesting. Actually, I can talk about that later. So why Korea? Why now? So every time So I come back to Korea once every year or so, not just because we have team members in Korea, we have collaborations with universities in Korea, but the level of corporate participation have been going up steadily year on year. Why now? I think Korea traditionally has had very strong internet product development capabilities. One of our ecosystem founders used to be a project manager for Line, and the type of product and consumer sensitivity that he has is very superior to other types of Web3 founders coming from other types of disciplines. So when very well organized internet companies and very well established user experience design and internet training meets crypto product form, we think this is a great opportunity for Korean projects and founders to kind of go international as this trend continues. And also just the level of technical adoption has historically been really, really high. People are forward-looking and very forgiving of innovation and experimentation, and that makes this a very good cultural breathing ground for fantastic products and founders. So the type of RWA product in every jurisdiction had previously been very fragmented, which means the type of product that can be sold to an American user versus to a Korean user have been very different, and regulation allows different types of form factors, different KYC standards, so on and so forth. But we can see the puzzles and a lot of these kind of trust as it gets codified, a lot of these compliance features as it gets more and more codified on chain. We can anticipate to see more collaboration going forward. So when you think about Japan or China as relatively siloed markets in terms of regulation, not just financial regulation, but also information, data protection, and there are all forms of departments that restricts the transfer while kind of protects kind of end users on their data sovereignty. As more of these regional standards gets codified and written into smart contract on the blockchain, I think we are heading towards a place where international issuance of products will become increasingly popular. The next chapter of global finance will be written here in Asia. I think increasingly we're seeing more and more kind of mainstream Asian builders and Asian founders coming into the space. A lot of them have had financial training as well as product training, and when a different level of mainstream talent enter the space, that's usually kind of a tipping point for how quickly things can grow. And conceptually, I think we are seeing a lot of kind of Korean founders who are both kind of TradFi and Web2 savvy, as well as incredibly adaptive to Web3 native ways of thinking and community building, and just like any other kind of tech sector, I think Korea is very well positioned to compete in this arena. So the chain for stablecoin and RWA, what is the advantage of Scroll versus other chains for stablecoin, RWAs? Anything that has a regulatory and financial or DeFi touch point is one where security matters a lot, and also finality matters a lot. And track record of running a blockchain with zero reorg, zero downtime, and the highest standard in security and audit is something that typically matters to institutions or anyone that handles third-party capital. The second thing is performance. So we're the cheapest L2 right now, categorically. We're a lot cheaper than every other ZK rollup, but we're also cheaper than OP rollups now. So for any consumer-facing products, cost of transaction is something that's really important. And in the next month or so, in our next upgrade, we're going to pushing out kind of a zero-fee experience through our custom wallets. Through the EOA Passkey wallet, we're able to administer kind of a gas-free experience. And this is going to be the aha moment or the Google search moment for crypto payment transfer. Because right now, as most of you will know, if you need to transfer any amount of stablecoin in and out of your wallet, you do need some Ethereum or Tron or whatever the chain gas token is to enable that transfer. And that has been historically a huge blocker because the steps involved to execute that just makes somebody without a huge pain point lose interest. So that's bad UX, which is about to be solved. And then the third part is, apart from compliance, KYC, AML related localized customization that we can build into the blockchain, we're also launching our first privacy layer that is compliant privacy and also EVM compatible. We'll be piloting this product with our partner EtherFi Cash, which is a very fast-growing DeFi-centric credit card product. On this product, you can earn 6 to 10% yield on your credit card and swipe at every kind of point of sales and get something like 5 to 8% cash back. And when this on-chain transaction process becomes completely private, I think that's the point where kind of more mainstream users will be entering the space and using it. So I think I've ended the presentation with 10 seconds to spare. And so if anyone has any questions, feel free to grab me afterwards. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I look forward to speaking with any of you who are interested in RWA issuance, stablecoin, or in blockchain design or ZK applications. So thank you all. Have a good day.